Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right in, shall we? Today, we're exploring a truly profound analysis of Surah Ta-Ha, and we're pulling this directly from Maulana Maududi's highly influential commentary, the Tafheem-ul-Quran. Now, if you've ever wanted to understand exactly how ancient narratives connect to immediate on-the-ground struggles, well, this is absolutely the explainer for you. You see, this text doesn't just treat the Quran as some dry historical recount. No, it unpacks it as a deeply psychological and, honestly, strategic message. So let's get into it. To really appreciate the sheer power of this surah, we've got to look at its immediate impact. Take the dramatic anecdote detailed in the source text about Omar ibn al-Khattab. This is right before his conversion to Islam. Picture this. He's furiously on his way to physically harm the Prophet, but suddenly he discovers his own sister secretly reading a scroll. After a really tense confrontation, he actually asks for the scroll, washes himself to show respect, and begins to read these exact opening verses. Taha. The absolute majesty of those words literally pierce through his anger, leading to his legendary conversion right then and there. It's an incredible moment. Section 1. Context of Surah Ta-Ha and its historical setting. So to understand why these words were so incredibly impactful, we really need to look at the exact environment in Mecca at the time. Maududi explains that Surah Ta-Ha was revealed during a period of intense, suffocating persecution. The Muslims in Mecca were essentially this embattled minority. I mean, things had gotten so dangerous that it was right around the time many early Muslims were forced to leave their homes entirely, literally migrating to Abyssinia just to find physical safety. It was a time of immense anxiety and, frankly, worldly powerlessness. Section 2, Divine Comfort in Distress. It's exactly in this environment of fear that the core purpose of the surah is really established. The commentary brilliantly maps the immediate struggles of Prophet Muhammad against the powerful, hostile chieftains of the Quraysh directly over to Prophet Musa's ancient, seemingly impossible struggle against Pharaoh. By setting these side by side, the text draws this massive, undeniable parallel. On one side, you have Mecca, on the other, ancient Egypt. Both feature a solitary messenger facing down an arrogant, deeply entrenched superpower. So, here is the absolutely crucial point. The extensive story of Musa is presented here specifically to reassure Prophet Muhammad and his followers. It's essentially a message that says, hey, you are not the first to face a tyrant. It's designed to provide direct psychological comfort, proving that divine support ultimately outlasts earthly tyranny, no matter how bleak the current moment looks to them. Section 3. Musa's Call at Mount Sinai. To show exactly how this divine support works, the commentary transports us deep into the majestic, quiet valley of Tuwa. And this is just such a deeply humanizing moment in the source text. Musa is traveling through the dark desert with his family. It's cold, they're lost, and he spots a fire in the distance. He leaves his family for just a moment, simply seeking a glowing ember for warmth, or maybe someone to ask for directions. But what he finds instead is the ultimate divine calling. A simple, everyday search for a physical fire transforms into the very moment he is spoken to by the Creator. Now, of course, he isn't sent empty-handed. The text details two profound miracles given to Musa to prove his prophethood. First, his totally ordinary shepherd's staff, which turns into a living serpent. And second, his hand, which when drawn from his side, shines with a brilliant, blinding light. The commentary makes a great point here, noting these aren't just parlor tricks, right? They are definitive, irrefutable proofs of divine backing before Musa is sent off to face the absolute superpower of his time. Section 4. Preparing for the tyrant and the mental fortitude required. Let's look at Musa's immediate response here. He doesn't just confidently march off into the sunset. Instead, he makes this profound prayer. He actually asks God to expand his chest for courage, to ease his task, to untie the knot in his tongue so he can speak clearly, and to appoint his brother Harun to share the burden. This really highlights an acute, hyper-realistic understanding of the terrifying, massive mission he was just handed. He knows exactly how dangerous Pharaoh is. So armed with his miracles and his brother right by his side, the daunting command is finalized. As the commentary points out, the instruction is to go directly to Pharaoh because he has completely transgressed all bounds. But, and this is super interesting, they are told to speak to him gently, yet fearlessly. I mean, think about it. They're walking into the court of a man who literally claims to be a living God, carrying absolutely nothing but the authority of the actual Creator. Section 5. The Duel of Miracles on the Day of the Festival. This sets the stage for what is easily one of the most cinematic moments in the entire surah. Maududi really wants us to pause here and consider the sheer imbalance of earthly power at play. How exactly does a solitary, previously exiled prophet challenge the greatest state-sponsored magicians of the mighty Egyptian empire? It's the ultimate underdog scenario, staged publicly by Pharaoh specifically to humiliate Musa. On the day of the festival, the magicians go first. They cast down their ropes and their staffs. The text describes how, through their absolute mastery of illusion, these objects appear to the terrified crowd, and actually even to Musa himself, as slithering, fast-moving snakes. It is a masterful, terrifying display of psychological manipulation and illusion. But then, Musa is commanded to cast his divinely empowered staff. And in an instant, the state's entire narrative just collapses. The text describes this exact moment of victory where Musa's staff becomes a real serpent and effortlessly swallows up all of their fabricated illusions. This isn't just magic beating magic, right? It is the sheer, undeniable weight of divine truth obliterating years of state-sponsored deception right in front of a massive audience. Section 6. The Triumph of Faith and Submission to the Truth. Now, let's slow down and really reflect on the immediate aftermath of this duel. According to the text, the most important miracle wasn't actually the staff swallowing the ropes, but what happened to the people who witnessed it. The source text notes a breathtaking shift. The magicians, who just moments ago were champions of the empire expecting a huge worldly reward, instantly fall in prostration to the god of Musa and Harun. Because these men were the absolute experts of magic, they knew immediately, without a shadow of a doubt, the difference between their own highly practiced trickery and a genuine, laws of physics-defying divine miracle. Their submission was just instant and total. Of course, Pharaoh's reaction is absolute fury. He's threatening horrific brutality, like amputation and crucifixion. But contrast that with the magician's stunning response. They look at the most powerful man in the world and essentially say, "Do your worst. You can only decree for this worldly life." They literally meet Pharaoh's physical torture with their newly found, totally unbreakable spiritual conviction. The analysis highlights how this specific moment reveals a profound psychological truth. Absolute certainty in the afterlife completely neutralizes the fear of earthly tyrants. You see, when the magicians saw the truth, Pharaoh's threats of death became completely meaningless to them, because their perspective had shifted entirely from the temporary world to the eternal. Just listen to this powerful defiance: "So decree whatever you are to decree." This is from men who mere minutes earlier were state employees begging Pharaoh for a paycheck. In a matter of moments, the truth completely transformed them into fearless believers who stared death in the face without even blinking. And as we reach the end of this analysis, we really see the ultimate parallel resolved. Maududi brings us right back to where we started. Remember the persecuted Muslims in Mecca migrating to Abyssinia? By presenting this ancient triumph, the commentary shows how Surah Ta-Ha reveals a timeless promise. Just as God's truth dismantled Pharaoh's empire and empowered the oppressed, that exact same divine support was there for the prophet and his followers against the overwhelming odds in Mecca. It's a masterful psychological reassurance drawn straight from history. And it leaves us with a truly profound thought to end on today. When we look at this conflict, whether it's Musa versus Pharaoh or the early Muslims versus the Quraysh, we have to ask ourselves, where does true power actually lie? Is it in the loud, fleeting threats of a tyrant, or is it in the quiet, unbreakable certainty of divine truth? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and I'll see you next time.